Yo! Welcome to Containing Luxury. On this episode, we decided to come back to Movable Roots and deck it out with Mike to see who's the winner of tiny home versus container home. Let's get started. All right, round number one, mobility. So I have a feeling you pretty much win this one right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that it has wheels probably helps with that.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
That's kind of like a door opener right there. So your frame is designed for towing in mind. You've got a tongue attached to it, whether it's a gooseneck or a tow behind or a fifth wheel. So I think when it comes down to mobility, you know, yours is set up for that.
If I had a customer that came to me and said, hey, I'm going to tour the 48 states in the next year, and I'm going to be kind of, you know, it's going to be connected to my truck. I'm going to be moving all over the place. You know, obviously, if we're going to do a tiny home, we're going to want to do a very small, compact, traversable tiny home, not like the one we're sitting on right now.
Not a 42 foot.
But also, you know, tiny homes are really not designed for that, right? They're designed to be parked, you know, somewhat for a longer period of time, for the most part, right?
Yeah, or at least an extended period of time, you know. Whereas, you know, a container, they don't have wheels, you know, unless you have a big trailer or a semi-truck. Weight, we're gonna immediately be into a 1-ton truck right off the bat, or bigger. You know, and then we're getting into a custom trailer that we need to build, and then we gotta figure out how we're picking it up and getting it onto that trailer. So, you know, can containers be moved? Yeah, absolutely. They're moved all the time, but they're moved by huge machines, you know, off container ships onto semi-trucks. So I think on a day-to-day basis, for your average person living in one, tiny home has to take that.
Yeah.
So round one, tiny home.
Round two, fight.
Round numero dos, strength. All right, so I know a lot more now after visiting with you a couple of times about how your design of tiny homes is different than a lot of the other ones I've seen. So I think before visiting you, it was a no-brainer that the containers whoop the tiny house. After visiting you, I think it's a lot closer than I thought, especially with your design. But I have to assume that's still a shipping container, just with the, you know, the weight, the structure, and the fact that they go on, you know, shipping container boats or ships, shipping container ships. There we go.
Yeah.
Right? Across the ocean, you know, for 10 years, 20 years, that we have to say that the container structure itself is built to withstand a little bit higher level. But I think when even coming down to that, it's going to say, what type of weather are we talking about? Because like you just said, yours is facing a Cat 1 just driving down the road.
Yeah, I feel like I'd kind of, I might give this one up to containers. Because, you know, when I think about kind of strength and of structure, I think if you were just to, you know, from the trailer down, I think they're very similar.
Yeah, exactly.
But because ours are movable and the structure is designed to be movable, where your container style is designed to be typically, set in place and you know, attached to some sort of either pylons or foundation setting, right?
Exactly.
It's just designed, I think, to be a more permanent, solid structure than a tiny home. So I would say round two goes to
containers. Round three. I forgot what round three is. All right, round three is going to be size. So obviously you can build anything. You're building your frames in-house. So, and shipping containers come in 10 foot, 20 foot, 40 foot, 45 foot. And I think we're kind of all falling into that 8 foot wide spectrum for the most part. We've kind of talked about that before, that we can go wider, but it's going to push us out into DOT regulations and stuff. But I think size in general, virtually we both can go bigger, can go smaller. You know, I feel like you're not really limited.
Yeah, I think again, if we're talking about an individual structure, a single container versus a single tiny home.
Yeah.
Potentially a tiny home may be able to get a little bit more space because we have a little bit more vertical aspect than a container. Width-wise is very similar,
Then again, you
right?
could cut the roof out.
You can, right? So, but then we're talking multiple units, right?
That's true.
This one may be a draw, you know, because I feel like if we want to talk about multiple structures, theoretically containers are going to blow us out of the water because you can put so many of them together to create.
Exactly, but if we're talking about one single unit, we're pretty much both stuck on 8 foot wide, 40 to 45 foot long and then we can build anything in between.
Yep.
So I think that one comes down to a draw that, you know, really it's just going to be, we can build whatever you want.
Yep.
All right, draw.
Final round. Fight.
We've got price. Now, I have to automatically assume we're pretty much at the same ballpark. It really comes down to the customer's budget and what we're building.
Again, it's something we chatted about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, budget is kind of what can limit, you know, the scope of the build, right?
Exactly.
I think one unique thing about containers that are opposite than tiny homes is, you know, our purpose-built trailers, we have anywhere, depending on the size, anywhere between 5,000 to upwards of 12 to 13,000 in just the trailer itself.
Yeah, the frame.
You know, no exterior walls or roof, right?
Yeah.
What are you getting, you know, a quality container for?
Yeah, you know, we could, if we're getting a used container, it could be, you know, as low as $2,000, and for a brand new or one trip container, it could be as low as $5,000.
Yeah.
So that means right off the bat, we've got a little bit better savings on that, but it's also, yeah, I mean, it's difficult because I think if you're right at the structure, you know, then we have to cut out all of our frames and weld frames together and all the fabrication that goes into that, where you're framing your walls.
Yep.
So I think when we're said and done, there's probably not too much of a difference a little bit on the structure itself. And then when we get into the interiors, we're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you're building, we build. You know, it's not any different.
Well, what you might save initially on a frame, on a trailer frame, you're going to have back into labor cost and material cost to frame your windows and your openings.
Exactly,
and
I still have to do my interior framing to be able to mount anything.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, we pretty much have probably circled back to being right at the same place when we're ready to do our interior finishing. And like, you know, like anyone should know really that's kind of been following these, it really then just comes into what you want on the interior. That's going to determine the price. You know, we can build this thing with 24 karat gold cabinets if you want, but you know, and then somebody might just want an empty shell. So you can't compare. It's going to, you know, construction costs are construction costs at the end. So I think that category again just comes down to a wash.
Draw.
Impressive.
So I think if we go back and we tally up where we're at, we've got, you win mobility. We win strength. And on size, we can kind of build. We're open.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the price, really, we can, you know, it's budgeted limited by the client.
Yeah.
So I think that's a draw as well. So I think what we've kind of come down to with the tally is really just what the individual's purpose is for this home.
Yep, exactly.
Is going to determine if they should go tiny home route or container home route. And that really just comes down to how mobile do you want to be?
Yep, exactly.
You know, if you're building, you know, for something to stay put in, you know, one of our hurricane zones, maybe a container home is for you. If you want to be, you know, traveling around and staying put for a period of time in Montana and then hitting, you know, California and then hit out here and stay for a year at a time, sounds like tiny house is the way to go.
Yeah.
So I guess we kind of found that a draw and the purpose is really what's going to win. It really just comes down to personal preference.
Size of the units, you know, the idea of them both being tiny and in that smaller square footage,
Roughly.
I think the concept of both are equal, right?
Exactly.
I think the style may fit another person, right? There's a lot of people that really like that container kind of style. In fact, this house right here, it has kind of that container look on it, right?
Modern.
On the outside, right?
Yep.
So again, really kind of goes back to what that individual client needs and
Yeah.
wants.
Mike, as usual, thank you for having us out here. And I think what we've learned is if you want a tiny home, call Mike. If you want a container home, call
Mike.
us. So we appreciate you guys. If there's anything we missed, hit the comments. We'll try and answer whatever we can. We'll also have a link to Mike's social media. So if you have questions, you can go to Movable Roots and answer those. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you guys for coming up.